laptop camera is like messed up.
It's all good.
All right. What's up, guys? Welcome to episode 102 of the Missed Call Podcast. This is Cubwood here with Sauce Sartori, and we have a very special guest, former North Dakota basketball player, and he now plays overseas, Quinton Hooker. Quinton, thanks for stopping by.
Hey guys, thanks for having me. Appreciate it. Glad to be here.
Glad to have you, man. It's going to be a lot of fun. We're going to talk a lot about basketball, but first, you're from about 15 minutes north of Minneapolis, where all of the things that are happening currently kind of started. Sure that it's impacted your community and things like that. I've really wanted to have a conversation about this on the podcast, so I'm very excited to hear maybe what you have to say about it, and have a conversation about it, man.
Yeah, man, it's just, especially when, it's right down the street basically, and you see it happening, just, the majority of the protests happening here first, and, just the way, things escalated. And honestly, it's just people, that are upset with how the system is, the injustice and, the hatred that is seen day to day. And it's not, it's not one or two instances. It's, repeated. There's a new instance, every other week, every other day. And I mean, even through the protests, we're seeing, more and more. And so I think, really it's, I'm really proud of the city and how, we've responded. And, I think, at times that we had to do this, we had to stand up. We had to, we can't be silent during times like this, and you had to take a stand.
Yeah, I'm 100% with that. You have to take a stand, and you have to make sure that you're heard. Because, I think one of the things that we've been seeing almost as like a stereotypical answer to all of this is, well, why not protest peacefully? Why not protest quietly? Well, that's the thing is I wouldn't say I don't want to say we, but people have protested. Black people have protested quietly for how many years now, right? Since the slaying of Trayvon Martin years ago. Until now, Black people have protested quietly. They have not been heard. Nothing's been done. And so, you have to have your voice heard.
Yeah. And I think you're right when we say we. I think it has to be us. It has to be we. It just can't be, Black folks saying, Black Lives Matter. It has to be everybody, taking a stand and showing that this is an issue that has been a problem. It has, kept up coming, and it's been that way. And honestly, it just, it's taking that time for, the community to rise up, and, being heard is the biggest thing right now. And I think, you can only silent protest for so long, trying to peacefully protest. And, I think, even from what you're, seeing, not only on the news, but, just from people at the protest, that it's not even really the protesters that are doing the rioting and the looting. It's like the majority of the arrests that were made a few nights ago were people not even from Minnesota.
Right.
So that's the craziest part in it.
The thing Sauce and I were talking about, because we've been talking about this for the last 3 days or so that's been going on, is like the rioting. You can understand the looting for some of the places, like Target. They wouldn't give them milk. We get that. But like Nike Town?
Yeah, and that's the thing too. And that's the reason why it's not the people in the community that are doing it. It's the people that don't care about the community. It's the people that don't live there. It's the people that are just going out there to do, to wreak havoc. They're not protesting. They're just trying to cause destruction. And that's what's only hurting, the businesses that are in the community even more, and hurting the people that are protesting to get justice.
Yeah, and I think it's kind of funny that in the background you hear the police sirens going off.
Dude, I think I hear there's something big outside. I don't know what it is.
But I was gonna say, like, you're right. The majority of the arrests that were made in Minneapolis when this kind of got snowballing, and even in other cities now, it's not necessarily people from those communities. It's people from other states, other towns. Like in Chicago, there's a metropolitan area around it. So it's the suburban kids going and thinking that they're doing something, but in actuality, you're ruining somebody's community. And at the end of the day, let's say it's, Josh from whatever suburban place outside of Chicago. When he goes in there and he does that, he's not the one held accountable.
Yeah, and that's the thing. He doesn't have any repercussions from it. He's just, seen as being part of the protesting and part of it. And so that really does, at the end of the day, just hurt the community. And the thing too, in the news, you don't see, the good protesting so much that's coming out of it.
Right.
The just thousands of people that are walking together, and it's like last night how the semi ran onto the road.
Right. Yeah.
Like that was, I can't even tell you the amount of people that I know that were on that bridge at that time, that were almost hit, that were, that has fallen down, trying to get out of the way and, getting trampled and stuff like that. It's that negative stuff that is, I think, shown more in the media than anything. And it's just crazy to see how much, even through this protest, that the hatred is still being shown.
Yeah. I was going to say real quick, Cub, that I feel like, and that 18-wheeler running through the highway like that leads me to the point that I feel like there's some kind of like almost underlying evil things behind the scenes happening to try to get all of this to stop, right? Like you see the 18-wheeler coming through the highway. Well, that part of the road was supposed to be shut down. Mm-hmm. Or I saw a video of Boston PD smashing in one of their patrol cars. And it's like, how much of the things that we're seeing are being set up by people who want to see this movement fail and want to continue to keep things the way that they are. I'm not one for conspiracy theories, but there are videos out there and evidence out there that point to maybe there are some things at play.
Yeah, and honestly, I was literally just going to say the same thing. Like, I'm not I don't want to be a conspiracy type, person or whatever, but it's almost to where it's not even a conspiracy anymore. It's just a fact,
Right.
It's just, these things are happening. There's video evidence, and, it's really like, it's being documented now. It's always been there, like how Will Smith has said, it didn't stop. It's not new. It's just being caught on film. And I mean, I think that's part of the way to get around, the conspiracy, stigma. It's not, it doesn't really need to be declared a conspiracy, because it's actually happening, and you can see it for a fact.
Right. It's not even a theory. It's there. You're right. It's a fact.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And that's probably the one way that, they're trying to stop the protests, or, to quiet people. And I think that's the thing, that with this point in time, I think that it's going to continue. I think people are going to continue to protest. People are going to continue to speak their voice and get it out there until something is done. Something to the system needs to change.
This is just all overwhelming. I'm trying to gather all my thoughts with this, because the rioting is out. Not the rioting. The protest is right outside now. I hear them now coming, and this is a peaceful one. I can tell. There's nothing saying go outside. But going back to what you said about the people that aren't there for the good reason, it just makes the whole protest for police brutality a joke. And that's the saddest part. It's just people there for the wrong reason. It turns into a joke, like, oh, this isn't for real. No, this is for real. These people that are ruining it should not be there. Mm-hmm. And it's sad.
Yeah, and I mean, I think you see that with the majority of protests that happen. There's always somebody trying to, throw hatred at whatever they're protesting. And it's not even just with Black Lives Matter. It goes through every protest that there's ever been. There's always somebody, a group of people, even if it's, a small amount of people, there's always people that are trying to put down what people are trying to progress in. And it's sad. It really is just sad.
And then the people that say this isn't a good time, this isn't a good time, this isn't a good time to protest, blah, blah, blah. It's the people that don't want to change because they're the problem.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's the whole thing, I think, about being silent. And honestly, when you guys asked if, it'd be okay if we talked about it today, and, yes, I think it's great that people are, trying to have conversations about it. I've had multiple friends, white friends that are, hitting me up saying, hey, can we talk about this? Hey, I want to know your input. I've had, family members reach out from my mom's side, just wondering how, things are for me and my family. And that's, something that I think has to continue to happen.
Yeah, I think that as a white person, I think the more you ask questions, the more educated you can be, is the best way to solve this issue. The people that don't ask questions or just sit back and stay the way they are part of the problem. And I think so many people need to take I took a race and ethnicity class at the college that I go to. One of my favorite classes ever. And my teacher just gave me so much outlook on life and everyone in the class. It just made me try to understand what people go through on a daily basis, because everyone in the class was a different race. And I was just like, wow, you do that?
Yeah. And honestly, those are the times that, you really, find, something that's really enlightening, something that you can learn from, something that you can take into, another day of life. And something that, I think as in the education system, there's not a lot of that, genuine conversation, especially done at, higher level, but even at, younger levels of education in elementary school, junior high, high school, stuff that can continue on to promote people to have more influential and dynamic lives.
Yeah, I would stay after with my friends in the class and talk to our teacher. I'd be like, this needs to be a mandatory class for every level of education, like every level. This should be a mandatory course in every state, just to help solve the problems any way you can. The more you talk about it, like I said, yeah. What?
But instead, they mandate PE and make sure that you can do a wall sit. You know what I mean? It's like, what are we prioritizing, really?
What's that test you have to do with the running?
Yeah.
The pacer test.
Pacer? Oh my!
The pacer,
I would do two laps. It didn't matter if I could do more. I would always do 2 laps, and I would drop out of the pacer test. that was it for me. That was all I needed to do.
That's funny.
Quinton,
no, I was always one of those
ahead.
top ones. There's too many competitive guys in my class.
Yeah, I'm competitive. It just, when it came to running, I was like, I'm cool. Yeah, I'm all right.
See, I would probably do that now for sure. Like, nah, I'm good.
Quinton, one of the things that you said was that, we need to continue to do the protests and things like that. And I agree wholeheartedly with you. I think part of the reason that there hasn't been the change that, a lot of people are looking for is that I've kind of made it into a metaphor, right? So think about the 1st of January, and everybody wants to go to the gym. And so they go out and they get their gym membership, and maybe they go for a day, and maybe they go for a week, and maybe they go for 2 weeks. Maybe they go for the rest of their lives, and it's a life-changing experience. But the majority of people go for the 1 or 2 weeks, and they said, all right, I did the thing, I went, and then it's over. I think the same thing can kind of be said for these protests. Is like, you do one, and then it's like, all right, I did the thing. And maybe I'm generalizing, but this is just a thought that I've had, is that, all right, I did the thing, and now I've made the difference. And that's not to delegitimize anybody's effort into what we're all trying to do, but I think there needs to be more consistency, right? Like, you're not going to lose 100 pounds if you go to the gym for 2 weeks.
Yeah, no, and that's definitely it. The cause or whatever, at some point loses its momentum. People lose their drive, their focus, and and honestly, I think that's always been the thing that has stopped movements like this. And it's kind of made it okay. It only happens when something huge is caught on tape, or something hits national news. Where I think at this point though, hopefully there can be that constant momentum. That drive that people are talking about, day in and day out. And I feel like there's a different feel with this, and
yeah.
I don't know if you guys feel that same way, but there's this almost tenseness in the air that, like, when you're driving around during the day, you're like, all right, like, you can just feel it in the air.
It's like an outrage, outrage, that kind of fire behind it, that it's been there, but it hasn't been as hot as it is right now.
Yeah, and I think it's one of those things that needs to continue. Like, it's these conversations. It's the on social media. It's in the streets. It's going to legislature, and I think honestly, it being a big year for elections and stuff like that too. Like, that might just keep the momentum swinging enough to move forward too.
I also feel like with the coronavirus, this will help too, because everything's on lockdown. People have a lot more free time. So I feel like the coronavirus, this could be actually a good thing to help push this more.
Yeah, Yep. And I think that too maybe is why, everyone is kind of tuning in more to, what they can do, how they can, be active towards, making a change. And, obviously, the virus has in a way taken a back seat as far as like headlines and
Yeah,
to
coronavirus lost a 3-0 lead, bro.
yeah, they definitely did. Yeah, it definitely lost all its lead. And, I'm sure at some point the government is going to say, all right, the virus is back worse than ever and nobody can go outside again in a way, to try to, I don't know, like, they're already putting curfews out and, the curfews, I don't know. Some people say that they're good to, try to slow down the amount of rioting and stuff like that. But, in other words, curfews aren't great because it's trying to limit the amount of protesting that you can do and the amount of momentum, and they're trying to, take away the momentum. I don't know. It's a little frustrating, but
what's the curfew like for you? What time is it for you guys?
I think yesterday so they've been shutting down the highways sooner. I think it's been around like 6 o'clock. I think technically it's 8. But I could be mistaken, but I'm pretty sure yesterday things were, trying to shut down around 6. But when we were driving around the past few days, it's been shut down from 8 to 6. And the crazy thing for me is, people still have jobs. People still have to work. Like, it's not just, protesters that are in the streets during those times. Like, there's a lot of, especially with the pandemic already happening, there's a lot of money and jobs that are, at risk already by shortening their hours even more,
Right.
which is crazy to think about. But yeah.
And a lot of those people that are working and they're by the protests and et cetera are the ones getting hurt by the rubber bullets and whatever, people throwing stuff. And that's even more sad because they're just doing their job and going home.
Yeah. There's just so much. There's just so much to go with it.
I mean, I think we can all agree that on Twitter, it's almost been inundating. Like, there's every time that I refresh my Twitter, something news happened in some way, shape, or form. Like, a Cub, I think the things that you're talking about is like, I saw a volunteer nurse yesterday had to vacate the medic tent that she was in. And somebody made the brilliant comment that if you attack a medic tent at war, that's a war crime. But we're willing to do it here.
Yeah.
Or there was a video of a girl who just went to go get groceries and she got sniped in the face by a rubber bullet and she's sitting there bleeding from her face. It's like, it's crazy. And it's really hard. It's really upsetting to me that the only adjective that I can think of to umbrella over all of this is that it's crazy.
Yeah. Like, I mean, you're texting with people, calling people, and literally that's the word that keeps coming to your mind. It's literally insane. It's crazy that this stuff is happening, and the amount of footage and things that you see, like you said, every 5, 10, 15 minutes, there's something new, something that's even more eye-opening. And I mean, honestly, I think that's like, the thing that will keep the protest going, them seeing how much is happening during all of it too.
What was something that you saw on social media that was just like, whoa, and you're like still thinking about it now, like a video that's really stuck out?
Oh man.
Honestly, it's I mean, besides the semi thing that really hit, just home, just because of the
hit home.
Yeah, like just because of the questions behind, like, it's the highway, the road was shut down. Like, how did this thing get past, the police line? One, and just because of, I think, there's just so many friends and family that was like close to actually, being in harm's way, close to, being, another victim. And, I think that along with, the montages, I think, of the just excessive force, the brutality, that the police, I mean, I know you guys have seen it too, just the videos of, just video after video of people that are with their hands up, getting shot, getting beat up, men, women, young children. It's just, and I think, it's just, those are the things that keep replaying in my mind. And, just knowing that, I have, friends and family that are just going through this struggle on a day-to-day basis. And it's, it's not even, it's everyone, and it's just, it's just so angering, it's just so frustrating to see that the ones that are supposed to be protecting us are the ones that are hurting us at the same time. And, and the thing is, like, I have friends that are cops. I have an in-law that is a cop, and I know how they feel about the whole situation. And, obviously they've been, busy, during this time too, but, so we haven't had to, being able to talk so much about it on like their end. But it's just sad because I know how they are as people and how they are as cops. And it's just sad. It's just so sad, man.
Mm-hmm. To answer your question, I think the video that it was this morning actually, as I was eating breakfast. I mean, I thought it was just a general question, but I was going to answer too. It was a video of a young man who was on his knees, hands in the air, and he's just pouring his heart out to this sea of police officers in front of him. And he's telling them, like, I love you guys. Like, he's spreading like this really like love your neighbor type message, as he's just screaming and pleading with these guys, like, please, let's find common ground. And out of nowhere, it was like 2 minutes of him just pleading with these guys. And out of nowhere, the formation breaks, 2 people step forward, and they arrest him.
Wow.
And he's just on his knees. I promise you I'm not leaving out details other than his specific speech. But he's on his knees, hands in the air for 2 minutes, pouring his heart out, and they step forward and arrest him.
He had the red hat on, right?
Yes. And at that point, it was like, what can you do?
There is just keep going.
Keep going.
Like, that's the one thing you can't, you just can't let, things like that deter you. And I mean, obviously I can't say much because I haven't been arrested in that situation or whatever. Mm-hmm. And I'm sure it's even more difficult because of then the I don't know, the financial, legal stuff that goes with that, that are trying to block you from, going further in it, with like protesting and standing up and making a voice. And honestly, and that's the thing, I think that's where the crazy thing, I wasn't shocked. Like, when you were saying it, I was not shocked. Like, it's like, of course it would have happened, right. And that's how frustrating. And frustrating is not even a good word for it. But for lack of better terms, that's how angering it is.
It just kind of rips your heart out of your chest a little bit, man. It's like he was doing everything right, and you still are going to punish him and make an example of him.
Mm-hmm. And I think that's kind of maybe that's I think it being broadcasted so much is what the country needed. It's what the world needed. You seen, it's not just here. It's people in London are protesting.
Right.
Like it's sweeping. Because racism is everywhere. You see it everywhere. We see it in Europe when we're playing. We see it. You see it in soccer. Like it's they have their own thing. Like end racism. Stop racism. They have like during their games and stuff like that. So it's not just an American issue, it's a worldwide issue.
And it doesn't make any sense. Like, I was talking to someone the other day about it, and I'm like, racism has been around since the beginning of man, and it's never made any sense to why a person with lighter skin is more superior. It doesn't make any sense at all. And yet people think it's you're in the right mindset if you think that. It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, and that's I think that's the way that at some point, praying to God that we can somehow get that out of the mindset of people. And and it's just crazy, man.
Yeah. Now,
am I going to do the video?
So
say it again.
I said, is it my turn to tell my video now?
If you want to.
Yeah, go ahead.
This one's been stuck in my head since I saw it. It's the dude with the bow and arrow.
Oh, yeah. and then they whooped him, and then they interviewed him on TV, and they said he was like, two black men beat me through my window, and
this line through his
that's
teeth.
the truth that some people get, and they're like, oh, two black kids beat him up.
Yeah.
When in actuality, he's holding a bow and arrow at people.
Yeah, pulled back and everything.
Right.
And the protesters, and then screams, "All lives matter."
Yeah. And that's the thing. That's the thing with the media, like like the news, like they're showing that, but they don't have the full story behind it.
Right.
Like they're showing this guy who reportedly got beat up by two African American men for no reason.
He got beat up by 50 people.
Like, but when they see that he was the one actually threatening lives, then it's like, oh, okay.
And that's the flaw with media too, is that you don't necessarily always get the full story because there's a finite amount of time for each broadcast, and you can't possibly tell all the details of every single story that you're giving.
Right.
It's a double-edged sword for the media and for us who don't always get all the details. And it sucks.
Mm-hmm. And that's why you just have to be, you can't believe everything you read or see. And I think that's the issue with Twitter too, or Facebook or, Instagram, like YouTube, you can't trust all of it, and that's why, you can try to do as much research as you can and whatnot. And some things get, fact checked and stuff, but still there's just so much on the internet.
Yep. Now, I think moving forward, anything that we talk about on this podcast is going to seem pretty trivial. So I want that to be said, that we know that anything that we talk about for the rest of this podcast is not going to be nearly as important as the conversation that we just had. But there are other things in Quinton Hooker's life that matter, and I think basketball is definitely one of them. You played collegiately at North Dakota, which we said in the intro. Now, after college, you found your way overseas to play basketball. You've played in Poland, France, and now Hungary.
Yep.
And I'm curious, like, how does that process start? So you graduate college, you don't get drafted, and obviously the infrastructure for another professional league in America isn't there. So at what point are you like, all right, I think I have to go to Poland?
So it was after my senior year. So it happens pretty quickly. So we played in March Madness, and it was literally like, a few days after that it was, you kind of start the process of, finding an agent, going through that, you're going through your workouts, trying to get invited to camps. I had my pre-draft workouts with, 3 NBA teams. And then from there was, I didn't get invited to any summer leagues. So it was like, all right, my agent, turned to, it's either the G League or Europe. And, I decided to do the Europe route. Mm-hmm. And so really it's honestly, as a rookie, it's a confusing time because, people are like, so, where are you going next year? And it's like, I don't know, I'm going overseas somewhere. And usually towards like your rookie year is kind of tough just with, there's so many guys established overseas and they're getting their offers and contracts, earlier, just if they're re-signing with the team or they, just had a great year, teams are going to sign them earlier than a rookie coming from college. But yeah, started getting offers from teams. They contact your agent. Some
right.
even can contact you, and it just kind of goes from there.
I would imagine that rookie season has got to be tough because not only are you learning to play at the professional level, you're learning how to play a different style of basketball because the European leagues are way different than how we play basketball in America, even though it's just maybe those incremental small details to the game. But then at the same time, you're learning to live on your own in another country, trying to learn the language and all that stuff. I can only imagine how the cards are stacked against you there, man.
And that's the reason why, teams normally don't really like to take on rookies, just because it's so much change. It's, not just basketball, but like you said, it's a lifestyle. Just it's a whole culture shock. I think and that was the hardest part. Like it took a couple months to just get used to everything, because you get off the 11-hour plane ride and layover and whatnot, and you get there, and then you have I had a couple other hours of a drive, and then you get your car, you get the apartment, and thankfully, like my first year, things were smooth as far as like getting our stuff and settling
Okay.
down. But the next day was practice. Like it's there's this
You're
you're
jumping
right
right into it.
into it,
Yeah.
and it's the preseason's is a grind. Just getting used to everything. Because it's not like you're just getting used to plays or the system. Like you got to figure out food. The money, the grocery stores, the language. Like good thing for Google Translate, or else you'd be stuck.
Right.
But
Right.
like I don't know how guys did it 20, 30 years back, because it's technology is it's a saving grace.
It is. Yeah. In
Yeah.
some cases.
True. Very
That's a
true.
whole separate conversation, though.
Yeah, true. Very true. Yeah, it's tough though.
So going back to you mentioning your agent. I'm surprised we haven't asked this question yet with any of our interviews that we've had. What's it like? What's the process of getting an agent like?
So depending on how your career goes in college, usually agents start introducing themselves, like just saying hi or whatever, just putting their name out there during your career or whatever, just saying like when your career is done, I'd like to talk or whatever. So like some guys try to get their name in early, some guys are more respectable about like letting you just focus on college and like getting your degree, finishing playing and stuff like that. But really it's sometimes it's just contacts too. Like college coaches have agents, working out their deals, and so sometimes their agent might know somebody else, and just the basketball world ends up being a smaller community once you get to that professional level, as far as like who who's good at their job, who's good at getting guys in good countries, good teams, good situations. And so really it's just from there there's phone calls, there's emails, and you just kind of do your due diligence of finding somebody to represent you.
Does your agent represent anybody else? Like, does your agent represent anybody else as like, oh my God, he represents him?
Wendell Carter.
Yeah.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah. Like he has.
Okay.
That was I think that was his big pickup for the last couple of years. Like I mean, yeah, he has guys in the NBA and the G League overseas, so he's pretty widespread. But thankfully, he is has a pretty small client list compared to some of the bigger agencies,
like a
and stuff
Drew
like that.
Rosenhaus or something like that, where he's got like every big name NFL player.
Yeah, and, yeah, it's one of those things. I mean, of course, those guys have guys that work for them and whatnot.
Right.
So
yeah,
it's good to coming out of a mid-major. I really like the fact that he owned his own agency. He would represent me himself, and he's done a great job in getting me in great positions and stuff like that. Michael Siegel, and he's just done his thing for me. So I've been thankful.
Shout out Michael Siegel.
Yeah, shout out to him.
So being overseas, what's the most I'm not in America anymore moment that you've had?
Or
if there's a couple of them, we love stories.
There's probably a couple of them, just with honestly, it happens randomly. So this year we had a rookie on our team in Hungary, and we were just walking the square. Like we were walking from I forget if it was just from one of our apartments or something like that to the square to get some food.
Okay.
And I could just see he was thinking, because he was just looking at everything, and because in Europe, you kind of, I don't know, the buildings, just everything just looks different. Obviously, I don't know if you guys have been to Europe, but it's just different. It's just a different feel. And I could tell him, I was like, you're thinking wow, I'm really in Europe, aren't you? He's like, yeah, man, I'm really in Hungary. This is crazy. Because you get to a point to where you're just living life again. You almost forget that you're 7 hours away, time difference, and you're thousands of miles away from family. And so I don't know, I think there was a moment where there was it was in Hungary, and I was at a McDonald's, and me and my teammate at the time, John, we were sitting there, and there was a soccer game that night, and soccer's really big, whatever. And we were in the McDonald's, of course, because we were just It was like 9 o'clock after practice, and we both didn't want to cook, whatever. And there was a soccer team at the counter, like checking out, like a fan supporters.
Okay.
And then all of a sudden, there was like, we see these guys like kind of like creeping around outside, and we're like, that's kind of weird. And all of a sudden, these guys come in with like masks, like skull masks on, and they had the opposite team colors.
Oh no!
Yes. And so right then and there, it was like from like Hooligans or something, like the soccer movie. Like the guys just started fighting. I'm like, what is happening?
What?
Yeah, it was honestly probably one of the craziest situations I've ever like witnessed happen. And everybody else in the McDonald's was acting like it just had like so normal. Like,
just walking around them.
Yeah,
it was like a gang war in the middle of McDonald's, and some people are just like, meh.
Yeah, it's just the other team. Like, I guess it was a big game or something like that, and they was wearing the other team, and yeah.
Sauce, you act like this is weird. Like if you go on the train in Chicago, there's just weird things going on, and people ignore it there. It's the same thing.
Yeah, it's just a different part of life.
Yeah. I'm just, but no, I'm trying to like conceptualize like a group of Eagles fans and a group of Cowboys fans like see each other in a McDonald's, and they're like West Side Story, what I mean?
Like there's that freeze frame, right?
They start snapping. It's like the Outsiders. They're like, all right. One of them starts slicking his hair back.
Yeah, man, that was my real like introduction to just a European moment, just because like it was over a soccer team and just how like real it is over there. But I mean, other than that, it's probably just the language, just being in a store, like checking out, like in Europe when you go grocery shopping, you kind of shop for maybe like that day or like 2 days or something like that normally.
Okay.
And it was my rookie year in Poland, and so I'm stacking up. Like,
right.
I got almost just a whole cart full of things. I got water, milk, juice, cereal. I got all of it, right? Like chicken, all of it. And I come up to the line, and it's not like a Costco or a Target or anything where it's
like a small like grocery store, right?
Yeah, and the one I went to that time, and the checkout was like, it's the size of a desk. Like, I don't even know how to describe it. Like, a couple of desks put together. And so I get up there, I'm like, oh geez, like, I don't know how all this stuff's gonna fit on there. And I'm looking around, and everybody has like 6 or 7 things and like holding it. And I'm just like, well, y'all gonna have to wait, because I got about $80 worth of stuff here, and I'm gonna get them home. So like, I don't know what you guys are gonna do. Because people start getting mad, but yeah. That
are there shopping carts? Do they like push around shopping carts? Okay.
Yeah, there's shopping carts, but like usually you have to go to like the bigger like stores, like Tesco is a big thing over there, or whatever, Aldi's or something. But
it sounds like shopping carts are like frowned upon. It's like they're there, but please don't.
Yeah, use the small little carrying cart so that you take 3 minutes to check out instead of 15. So yeah, that, and you got to pay for plastic bags, and so that was kind of weird. It was
infuriating. Like, I bet you're like, what?
Yeah, I got to spend 20 cents on a bag. Are you serious? Like, yeah.
Think about the plan. Come on.
Right? Yeah.
Save the turtle.
So that's, you really just you get these big bags and you just keep reusing them. So I guess it go Earth.
Go Earth.
We're Team Earth over here, baby.
Exactly. Yeah.
So Quinton, I gotta ask you about North Dakota, because it's a big hockey school.
Mm-hmm.
Hockey school, 30 appearances in the tournament, 22 Frozen 4. It's hard to say.
Keep going.
22 appearances, and then 8 championships. Hockey and basketball are at the same time.
Yeah.
People go more to the hockey games than the basketball games?
Yeah. I mean, their arena, the Ralph Ingolstadt, that arena is something else. I mean, I think my first time was a recruiting trip. Not on my recruiting trip, but for one of the other guys. Might have been Gino, actually. But anyways, we were at the hockey game. Yeah. Shout out Gino. But it was, the hockey games there are just nuts. Like the crowds, the atmosphere, everything about it. But the funny thing that they do at North Dakota is, so we normally play, well, we did at the time, we played on Thursday, Saturdays, and hockey played on Saturdays too at home normally. So we would play at 2:00. So students could get like discounted tickets to the hockey game if they went to the basketball game.
Oh man.
So for like my first two years, it was basically people would just go to our game just to get the tickets. But then we became. I mean, my freshman year we were really good. We were just one game away from the tournament.
Okay.
But then my junior senior year, we were cold, so everybody started going to the games too. So that that definitely helped. But yeah, hockey's big. It's fun too. Yeah, it's fun.
As you can tell, we're hockey guys because I fumbled on Frozen 4.
Did you ever meet Chicago Blackhawks legend Jonathan Taves?
No, I actually haven't. No. We have no. I'm actually like a few games that I've seen hockey. It's fun, but I'm not like really in tune to it. But the guys that are on the hockey team that I know, I've been pretty chill and whatnot. So
all the hockey games that I've been to, and I've been to like 2, but each time I've been to a hockey game, there's been a fist fight, and that's what keeps me going in life.
Yeah, honestly, the funniest is when before the puck, as soon as the puck drops, they throw the gloves and just start fighting right away in the first minutes of the game. It's like, oh, okay,
they had beef coming in.
Yeah. Right then and there, let's just settle this before we get going. Hockey's funny, man. It's really funny.
It is funny. I think it's funny too.
Yeah.
So, speaking of alumni, Sauce is bringing up alumni. I got to bring up, does Phil Jackson ever come by and teach you guys the triangle offense?
No, he doesn't.
I've never seen him in my life.
I haven't. I mean, he's a great guy, and he's obviously a great coach. Great player. But I haven't. I mean, in my years, I haven't met him or heard of him. Going back to UND much, but I don't know. When you win so many NBA championships and whatnot, you got other things to do. I guess I don't know.
Yeah, I mean,
but yeah.
The first thing he did. The first thing he did as the president of the New York Knicks was to sign Lamar Odom. Who was on? Never mind.
Come on the pod, Lamar.
What'd you say, Cub?
Come on the pod, Lamar.
Yeah. Please, especially
hit him up.
That. Yeah. We're also curious, Cub lives in Chicago, and when I lived in rural Illinois, they called me a city slicker. So I guess you would call us 2 city boys. So we're curious what do you do in North Dakota?
It's
I can't figure it out from my perspective, the way I've grown up. I can't figure it out.
It honestly, and that was my one when I first got offered by North Dakota. I think I was they were my first D1 offer, and I knew the coach because he had coached me when I was younger.
Okay.
And so they had offered me, and I was like, I'm not going to North Dakota. Like, what? Like,
no shot.
I vividly remember saying that to my dad. I'm like, I'm not going to North Dakota. And I don't know what happened, man. All of a sudden, it was just, I had 13 other mid-major offers and whatnot. So I could choose, but it was something about North Dakota. And, there was something about North Dakota that was just like, all right, I can see myself there. They're close to home, and the vibe of the team and stuff. It was just really a really good community, and there's actually it's a really big. It's like a college town, So
okay.
when school's in session, there's everything to do. There's obviously there's movies, good food, there's just good people and stuff like that, and it's just, and I was there in the summers too, working out. So I was there when there was no one there,
yeah,
right?
It was a ghost town.
It was literally gym, sleep, eat, food, and then at that point, usually the football guys or there's the other athletes there, and we'd hang out. So you actually find out I don't know, more things to do when you're there. But I had a great time at UND. It was very shocking, and before I was thinking coming from Brooklyn Park, it's what is there to do in North Dakota? But yeah, it ended up being great. I actually love Grand Forks. I never thought I'd say that, but I love Grand Forks. If it was before my 4 years, I'd be I don't know. And now I'm wearing them literally every day. So go Hawks.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, I went to a smaller school in the middle of nowhere too for 1 year, and I did not have that same discovery.
Oh yeah.
I was out pretty quick. Yeah,
Oh, really?
I was
Yeah. Honestly, I think it helped that I had a good support system with the team and stuff like that. So
Yeah. Oh yeah.
and it was it's pretty close to, like, I knew a couple people from high school and around the Brooklyn Park Twin City area that was going there too. So that ended up helping. And one of my best friend, Carson Shanks, he ended up transferring there for basketball too. So that ended up helping, and we played basketball together since 6th grade. So yeah.
That's awesome.
It was, yeah. It was a good time. Yeah.
Good.
Yeah. It was fun.
Good.
Yep. Go Grand Forks. Go North Dakota.
We're Team Earth. We're Team North Dakota.
Yep.
Oh, perfect. We're just finding new jerseys to wear now.
Just so many. I got so many hashtags.
So many hashtags. So many hashtags.
Yeah.
Sauce, we're also another team.
That's right. We're Team CS. All of us are on the same team.
There you go.
I didn't even know that until Cub wrote it down, but we're on the same team.
Yep,
we're actually. So we should maybe make this a point, because since we're sponsored by them, we have to do an ad read. So we're sponsored by the See Us movement, and this will be our See Us movement question. You were one of the first males on the See Us campaign. What does it mean to you to be an ally to the movement?
Honestly, just what the movement is doing, and promoting that, what female athletes do, and it's just, they're so, in a way, underrated and underappreciated, and it's people that aren't in the athletic world that tend to down women's sports, and I think you see that as people that are in a way uneducated about the day-to-day life that it goes to being an athlete, and having sisters that were athletes, and one day's daughters, just it's a big thing, because they are doing the same work, even more than what we're doing too. Right. And honestly, what they're doing is a great movement, and I'm just thankful and honored to be a part of it.
And we are too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Sauce and I were talking about this beforehand, and we're like, but the police brutality, I'm like, in the See Us movement, I'm like, Sauce, this is similar stuff that we need to talk about more to fix the issue.
Yeah, no, definitely having these conversations that are meaningful and impactful, and not just today's generations, but the next generations are key conversations that I think people have to have, especially with things like podcasts and stuff like that can reach so many viewers and people. It's pretty great.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's pretty cool. I can't write it down on a tax. I can't write it down on a tax form yet, but I think it's pretty cool.
Yeah, soon enough.
Yeah, fingers crossed. You made the point that someday some of these people who are downing women in sports are going to have daughters. And I have a friend. He's actually a good friend of mine, but he's one of those people who is actively against women in sports, which I have a hard time getting behind. But he's a friend of mine, and I tell him all the time. I say, Ronnie, oh man, I just doxed him. Friend, we'll bleep it. Shit, I just doxed him. I say,
that just
friend,
shows how much you care.
Yeah. I say, friend, I hope that when you grow up, I hope that you have the most successful female athlete ever as a daughter. I hope that you have a daughter, and I hope she is the most successful female athlete there has ever been, because then you will have to cheer for her.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. And you'll see how much work that she puts in, how many hours, how much time, how much dedication she'll have towards that and her craft, and, be eye-opening. And I think, it's just, things people have to go through and see for themselves.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Sauce, I will put money down that he will be posting #GirlDad in about 15 years.
Oh, yeah.
I wouldn't bet against it.
Yeah.
I wouldn't bet against it.
Yeah. And I think, honestly, that #GirlDad, I mean, obviously, just with the tragic death, like, of Kobe and Gigi and, the rest of the people, like, it's something that, started something else. It started people, for like the CS movement. Like, it started, showing support towards female athletes, and it's something that, hopefully continues to grow for people, not just athletic, people, like, through everything.
Yeah, and all we can do, as we've done this whole podcast is continue to have conversations, continue to educate people about those things and about, you know, things like the Black Lives Matter movement and like the See Us movement, right? We just have to continue to educate people, continue to have these conversations. And I'm really happy, Quinton, that you came on the podcast today and had these conversations with us, because I thoroughly enjoyed our time.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, thank you guys for having me. You know, it was a great conversations, and you know, I loved it. You know, it was a great talk. Thank you.
That means a lot to us. Thank you so much.
It does.
We're just a bunch of losers trying to, you know, make a difference
and make it at the same time.
There you go.
Yep. Change the world.
Yep. One podcast at a time.
One measly podcast at a time. You're right, Quinton. Quinton Hooker, thank you so much for joining us for episode 102 of the Missed Call Podcast.
Yes, sir. No problem. Have a great one, fellas. See you.
Oh man, I'm really gonna have to make sure I text him. I don't